Sure, hi everyone, and welcome to the WC Episode 4, an interview with Tweek. I am very thrilled to be bringing you this episode, as I have been a fan of Tweek's since his early days in age building. He has created a lot of shiny things, and to finally be able to sit down and talk to him about some of that stuff was wonderful, to say the least. So without further ado, please enjoy episode 4 of the WaterCooler, an interview with Tweek. Sure, everybody, and welcome back to the show. This episode, I have Mr. Tweek with me. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
So I think I'll just start off with a question I ask all of my guests. What got you into Myst?
It was actually my sister. It was back in '98. Parents decided it was time for us to get first PC, and they were letting us get a game each. My sister was originally looking for Riven, wasn't aware of the series at that time, and they didn't have it, so she ended up getting Myst. So she was playing it, I started watching her, and then I started playing it and fell in love with the game. Wasn't too long after that I got into the community and went from there, really.
So what's your favorite Myst title?
Myst title's got to be Riven, without a doubt. There's just something about the music, the design on it, the atmosphere of it, just a stunning game. Even all these years later, it's still a great game.
Yeah, music-wise, that's the one I always go to. I will never get that opening bit with Atris out of my head.
Yeah. It sent chills down my spine the first time I watched that, and I was like, oh yeah. And every time that music kind of kicks off on the soundtrack, I'm instantly like back in that room in Kveir, listening to him do his little spiel, and yeah.
So then, going from Myst to Riven to Uru, like, how long have you actually been in the Uru community?
So I got into the Uberu testing, the rehearsal testing back in 2003. Yeah, 2003. When I kind of, not long after I got into the community, the buzz about Dirt and Mud Pie was building up, and Myst Free and Real Myst hadn't come out yet. So the concept of actually going to Denis always kind of held an interest to me, like most people, I'm sure. So when the game came along, they had it demoing down in London prior to its release. So I went down there and spent the day basically just playing a test version of it and taking some photos and stuff.
That's really cool. I was one of the come in during like the last few weeks of prologue players, but I don't think I've ever talked to anyone who got in that early.
Yeah, it's a shame I missed out on Shoru, because that would have been interesting to be there like early days. But my computer at the time was not the best, and the internet connection was atrocious. Like, it took me 3 days to download the Cleft when I got into the beta testing, because I was on dial-up, and it's just yeah.
So then, what got you into wanting to build your own ages? Like, you've built, suffice it to say, quite a few, and they're very high quality. So what was really the inspiration to get into that for you?
I've always been interested in like designing worlds and stuff. Myst really kind of opened that up to me, because I was at art school. No, I was just leaving secondary school, and then I was heading to art school when I got into Myst. So it was a huge influence in like my art choice in artwork. And then I got a chance to meet Roger Dean down in London at an exhibition he was holding, and his worlds were very much in that kind of, mystical, fantastical, alien places, which just kind of pushed me even further. When Uru closed down, I got involved in the Clockwork Orange bulletin board community. They were like the early days of modding Uru. So a lot of the kind of tools that we have now, that's kind of where the seed came from. So I started off like just kind of tinkering with the files and getting myself back into the city and changing like things in the ages, turning books on, the decorations in the neighborhood and stuff. So, and kind of did that until the tools started to formulate properly into something that I could use in Blender to actually, build my own content. Yeah, and it just kind of went from there, really.
So have you always used Blender as your modeling program for your ages?
Yeah, I mean, I've dabbled a bit with 3D Studio Max, a long time ago, but not anything that really stuck with Blender. I kind of clicked with it a bit more, so I've always used that. I've used the old, what is it called, PYPRP plugins for Blender. I've used those probably longer than a lot of the other people building ages did. I was quite a slow adopter to the Coolman plugin. I was comfortable with it, so I didn't really feel with real life obligations as you get older and stuff. I didn't really have a whole lot of time to kind of relearn Coolman and the Blender shortcuts, but a period of time off at the end of last year, so I kind of set myself to do it. And Highgarden, which is an age I'm pushing for release in the near future on Myst Online, that was the age I was building as I was learning it. So yeah, definitely worth a switch, because the work Adam's doing and the other guys are doing on Coolman is absolutely, it makes life so much easier.
You mentioned Highgarden. You've posted a couple of pictures of it on your Facebook page, and it looks very nice. I'm sure people will go and sit in that age and just enjoy the ambiance. Do you want to tell a little bit more about it?
There's a bit of story behind the area, which is, can be found in the journals within the area. It's a small part of an age called Farts, which is the first age that I myself, my in-character version of me has written as a human. And it's just a small little garden area that the restoration group that I was a part of, that was our little place that we would relax. And now that group has gone, I'm opening it up to the public. And yeah, that's about it really. It was just a nice little area to build as a test, and to push something onto the server and actually release something after a 10-year span.
You've built other areas in that particular age, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. I'm kind of torn when I'm building stuff between obviously wanting to make it an entire world, but also having a small kind of Myst-like ages, where they're very self-contained, very small islands. At least with Farts, and there's a couple of other ages I've been working on that are quite large in size, at least. I wanted it to feel more like a world, and eventually release different areas of it that people can explore, and you'll see like elements that are there in each part of the age, regardless of where you are. Certain plants that are here and there, and of course new plants, new biomes, and all that lot, kind of like what Tyion did with the pod ages.
I was just going to say it sounded very reminiscent of that.
Yeah, I mean, originally when I first built Farts, it wasn't planning on being any larger. I made it a base and I made it small and self-contained, and in the end I found that kind of hampered me a bit too much. So I've kind of learned from that going forward, just to make things a bit more open-ended, so if I ever wanted to expand things in the future, I can. One of the main reasons I have not released anything in the last 10 years is I keep redesigning what I'm building. Farts, for example, I have probably redesigned that age a good 20 plus times. Same with Cass, same with Keran and some of the others. It's just kind of keep cycling through a rebuild to kind of get it looking more like I want it to look, trying to get it closer to that kind of aesthetic and standard that Tyion have set down. So if I drop my age down, you'll have different difficulty trying to see that it's not theirs, if that makes sense. The way I look at it is, it's like you've got a grey wall and you need a patch to repaint. I want that, retouch up of the paint to be as close to the original paint as possible, not like a slightly different shade that stands out when you stand back and look at it.
Yeah, that's a good analogy. So with the fact that you're actually releasing an age, how do you feel about that? Like, are you excited? Are you nervous? Are you like, is this really actually happening?
I'm not really nervous. I mean, generally, in the past, I've had a lot of positivity about the ages I have released and, my work in progress. I think it'll be fairly well received. I am excited. It's been a long time coming. I've really been wanting to get something on Tyion's server for a long time. It's Tyion's server. Like, I know, it's kind of the place you want your stuff to.
It's the ultimate playground. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to seeing what people make of it, even though it's quite like a small area. I'm looking forward to seeing what it's like, what people make of it.
So with the fact that we are releasing fan content into Uru, what do you hope to see in the coming days for the game?
Yeah, that's a good question. What I'm hoping to see is kind of already happening. We're getting, Callum Harley even is, he's got his Garden Age coming along. Seeing more people add their ideas to Uru and seeing, the different ideas, the different dreams that they have, actually being able to walk around them and, exploring and seeing their artistic skill, seeing their creativity, and then, seeing at least with like Harley's age, the feedback that he's been receiving, it's encouraging to see the age kind of progress and get stronger, if from a creative standpoint. I'm looking forward to seeing what content comes down from the future in that regard, and seeing that drive to kind of get it closer to science standards, raising the bar for themselves and for the others. And then the player kind of story as well. It's been interesting seeing the stuff that people like Jules and Carl and whatnot are doing in terms of the storylines that are being introduced and weaved into not just the content that we're working on, but future content and all the plans on that. And it's nice to see that pick up again. I think it's been a long time since we've seen kind of in-character stuff in Uru. So I've always been a huge fan of the in-character stuff. So it's nice to see that kind of rise up again. In-character in cavern stuff was quite prevalent during the prologue days, and it was quite prevalent during the game tap days. But in between those periods where you didn't have Cyan driving that, it kind of fell by the wayside. And we've had how many years since the game tap ended of it just being a sandbox game. So
well, yeah, I mean, it's been like 11, 12. Actually, I don't want to think about how long it's been since game tap went away. That'll just make me feel old.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Well, if it's not too presumptuous of me to ask, do you think you'll be releasing any of your current work in progress ages?
The switch into Corman has really kind of focused my work, because it's made things easier. It's made a smoother kind of workflow. So I've been able to kind of turn things around at a lot quicker rates, because not dealing with AlcScript is just marvelous. And with their modifiers, it's easy to set up things like journals and linking books and clickables and stuff like that. So it really does cut down the time. So when I'm working on an age, I'm not always working on just one age. I tend to cycle through 2 to 3 different ages to stop myself from getting bored and from getting like burnt out creatively. So I was working on Highgarden, and then inevitably I would hit a snag and it would be frustrating, so I'd take a break from it, go work on one of my other projects, and then so on and so forth. I've got quite a few ages that are pretty far along that I've been building like over the last 10 years and stuff. I actually have another age that's up on my screen as we're talking, which is Cass, which is quite far along. I've pretty much got everything kind of modeled. It's just setting up collisions and so on and so forth, but it's going to have a lot of journals in it, so that's probably going to take a lot of work. But I'm hoping to kind of get that one pushed for the Q3 releases. I'm working on FATS, the prime area FATS as well, which got a redesign, but that's kind of dependent on other ages being available as well. So I'm trying to get a couple of them ready to go at the same time, so I can release a couple of ages in one go, so that all the elements are there for the players to kind of explore and not have to wait for another 6 months before another age comes out, so they can progress to the next part or read the journal for the next part and so on and so forth. So I definitely have more planned for release, and just pushing away at it.
I remember when you first started working on Cass, you've posted quite a few redesigns for that one, if my memory serves.
Yeah, that was my experiment in outdoor ages. So that taught me a lot about outdoor environments and, lighting and all that lot, plant life and more organic structures. Cass was internal. It was, trying to figure out how to do an interior lighting and shadowing in there. I drew a lot of inspiration from, there was a builder at the time called Dieu, who was working on an age called Echo. And he'd created a room where it had some like lighting and pictures on the floor, in the wall. It was just a small kind of darkish room, but I really liked the lighting in that, and that was kind of my inspiration for creating that little room and trying to get those kind of effects. The purpose of the age was it was going to be a place where you could find all documentation to learn age writing yourself. There was going to be tutorials and stuff like that. Now, obviously, because we can't actually put the Garo Hevti in the game because we don't really know what it looks like, that was never going to really happen. So then it was a case of, okay, well, what happens to make that irrelevant, which was why it got vandalized. And then from there, it was I'd always planned on it expanding to be more of kind of a museum gallery kind of age, but it has gone through, numerous redesigns as I've been trying to get the layout right, and the number of artifacts that I want in the museum has grown, which has meant that the space has had to be bigger, and now it's very, 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 very big compared to how it used to be. I think I've got a map of it on. It's an old map now. The layout's still the same on my Facebook page with the old initial version of Gas and what it is now, and the size comparison is quite significant.
Very nice, very cool. We'll have to go and take a peek at that. So while we're on this subject, is there anything you might like to say to anyone interested in the content thus far, or anything about getting into age building or programming and stuff like that?
I mean, if the Uru players are liking the content that's being put out onto the server and they're interested in, contributing and stuff, check out the Guild of Writers website, and there's plenty of tutorials on there that Patrick's written to get you started. Be nice to see more people joining the age building process or the coding process. Or if you have many other avenues that we've got in terms of content creation, it's the more the merrier, really. I think the more people we have working on stuff and pushing stuff, then the more their Uru
add
will
more
grow
branches to the tree.
Yeah, Hoikus and the others keep pushing Corman in the awesome direction they've been doing. It's looking forward to seeing more complex ages, getting those puzzles going, and ages where we can have the replayability value that I think Uru needs a bit more. It's a shame, having seen a lot of the design documents from Tyion, the things that he had planned that never made it, and it's like...
Well, is there anything in particular that you saw in that document that you would like to see?
The Carlo races, I think that would have been a really fun one to do. Most of the age is built, it's just getting the brain work and the coding, the wiring done for the animals. The Tamne with the sleds and mining and collecting the resources and stuff, I think that would have been really cool. And then you got Rebek, which is actually one of the ages I've got in a work in progress. That one's a little simpler in terms of replayability because it's just kind of a hide and seek mechanism, but
Forgive me, but wasn't that the original name for Nullabin? Or am I thinking of something else?
No, Hector's Cove was what Nullabin was really originally called.
That's what it was. Yeah, I remember seeing all of that stuff. I can't remember the website that it's hosted on, but
it was. I know they released it as part of the intangibles stuff. So I think it's either Open at Uru or the Guild of Writers have got it up a repository somewhere. I can't remember where exactly. I mean, I've still got it from when I was part of the intangibles group. So
I think it is on the Guild of Writers website. I had completely forgotten about that. Like, they had a lot of concepts for, like, even stuff they were doing for Myst Online back in GameTap, didn't they have like a whole borrow age?
Yeah, the Spiral Age, I don't know what the actual name for it is, but that's what it's referenced to. Yeah, it was the Barrow homeworld.
Why did I think that Nullabin was supposed to be where they originated?
It's because Escher says this was their home, and everybody took it as this is their home world, and it's like, well, not really. That's always been a sticking point for me, but because the Barrow stuff changed so much over the years, because originally there was going to be the Four Seers instead of just Escher, and that was all going to be like tying into all that lot. And I don't think Nullabin was part of that originally. I think it was just there was a Dunny citizen there, but he wasn't hugely
the
into
Escher we got. Yeah.
So a lot of that's changed over the years. So it's kind of hard to tell what's what really. It'd be nice to get some kind of closure to that. I know the Barrow and Yisha are a bit of a sticking point for a lot of people because of the whole Yisha magic and stuff.
Well, it's such a half-baked plot line when you look at it in retrospect, because we barely got off the ground, with Ages Beyond Myst, and then they delved into Live, and that got shut down real quick, and then the story. You lived it.
Yeah.
But on that note, I was talking to Doobs in a previous episode, and they are bringing in like elements of Myst 5 into.
He's trying. We're trying to sort out like the legalities and where science stands on that. But yeah, he's been doing a lot of great work on the Descent and Diribo. I'd love to see those ages incorporated. Played the part of the Descent stuff he's been working on. He's had a test build.
Would you say it's a satisfying experience thus far?
It is so far, yeah. I mean, the dirt never happening, it made me sad because I've always wanted to be able to walk that journey from the surface all the way down into Denis. It's a bit like a pilgrimage of sorts, I think, for a lot of Myst fans. So,
well, it felt like it, when they released that demo a couple years back, and people were actually able to play that, and I thought it was gonna be like, okay, so we're going to just do a lot of walking and door handling, and like you literally get to play with one of the drills.
There was going to be a lot of interactivity there. So the big kind of drill can take a power source out of that, and then if I recall correctly, you then use that power source to power another machine further on down Descent that would then start like giving you fire marbles, so you could progress through the bug cave because the bugs would eat the fire marbles and turn out your light. And so there's lots of little bits like that wasn't, I don't think it wasn't going to be so much just a walking simulator. There was going to be quite a lot of like sorting through hazards and blocked areas and trying to circumvent collapsed tunnels and stuff like that.
Well, thank you, Tweek. It's been a pleasure speaking with you.
Yes, thank you for having me. It's been nice talking to her.
And that sadly once again brings us to the end of another episode of the WaterCooler Show. I'd like to thank everyone for tuning in. I'd like to especially thank Tweek for agreeing to sit down and have a chat with us here at CCN. And I hope to have him again sometime. It was, again, an utter delight. So with that, guys, we bid you adieu for now. Tune in to our next episode.